journalist. I've been a journalist for 25 years now. And this presentation is not going to be with numbers and figures and stuff like that. You know, it's going to be, I hope it's going to be interactive. We're going to have question and answer session at the end, but feel free to ask any questions if I need to clarify anything along the way. First of all, by show of hands, who knows what a podcast is? Okay, we have a few people. Who has done a podcast before? Who recorded a podcast before? You did. Okay, 2 people. That's good. Who wants to do a podcast? Okay, that's even better. Okay, we're going to have some fun today. All right. My name is Adrian. This is me 40 kilograms ago. Yes, I was like 100. I was 122. Now I'm 80. I had like a long beard. This is me. I'm a journalist since 1997. And I'm a podcaster since 2015. This is my website. This is actually the company website. We have a media company. Me and Liliana here. We have a media company in Romania. We are the owners of this company that has 10 publications, 10 newspapers in Romania. We have a team of 12 journalists. And also we are doing podcasts. We have a team of 4 podcasters that we have created with the first Romanian podcast network back in 2015. It was 7 years ago. And that podcast network is now the first and still the only podcast network in Romania. We have, I believe it's 7 different shows. Some of them are still running. Some of them are on hiatus, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to start them again. Talking about podcasts, I know that some of you know what a podcast is, but I'm going to start with the basics. What is a podcast? The podcast is actually a recording that it's an audio recording, is not a video recording. I know that on YouTube you can actually see podcasts now on video. Those are not real podcasts. What defines a podcast? Well, first of all, a podcast is an audio recording that you can hear whenever you want. So you have an application on your phone. When you first buy your iPhone or any Android device, you have an application on your iPhone. It's called Podcasts. It's Apple Podcasts. That application comes for free, and you can actually download podcasts and listen to them whenever you want. So that's one thing that Apple does that is right, because you can find applications like that you can use anytime, and you can listen to whatever podcast you like. There are several kinds of podcasts, and we're going to talk about those. So what defines a podcast? First of all, it's an audio recording. You can listen to it anytime you want. You can listen to it on your phone, on your computer, online, in a browser if you want. So that's one good thing. But the best thing that relates to the podcast is the fact that you can actually listen to whatever you want, whenever you want. So it's a time-shifted radio. We call that time-shifted radio because you don't have to tune in on a certain time, on a certain day to listen to a recording or to listen to live radio. You can listen to that in your own time. For example, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I have I believe 10 or 15 podcasts, and I have 40 episodes, a backlog of 40 episodes of podcasts that I really want to listen to, and those episodes are in my application. They're going to be, this is the application I use, it's called Overcast, but you can find a lot of applications like that. This is Mycon, this is one of my podcasts, by the way. The fact that you can listen to a podcast whenever you want makes it personal, makes it for you, you know. You have the chance to listen to that while you're taking a shower. You can listen to that in your car. You can listen to that on the way to school or to work, whenever you want. It's up to you. So that's time-shifted radio. By show of hands, who knows who Gary V is? Gary Vaynerchuk? Okay, have you heard of the guy? He's pretty famous. Gary Vee is a marketing guy. He's doing a lot of stuff in online businesses, promoting his company, and in the same time going to be a speaker in like big shows and big conferences. He once said, act like a media company, start a podcast. And this is what I'm trying to show you today, how easy it is to start a podcast, first of all, and how little you need to start your own podcast and become a media company, because you can actually start it for free. You don't have to invest anything. That's the best thing about a podcast. Of course, there are several things that you have to consider, and when you're thinking about that, is the first thing that comes to mind is, okay, I'm going to start a podcast, but nobody's going to know about it. How people are going to find out about it? Well, I'm not sure if you know that, but there's what is called an iTunes podcast directory. So whenever you start a podcast, as soon as you publish that, it's going to be picked up by Apple, the company that makes the iPhone, and they're going to put it in their directory so everybody can listen to that for free. You don't have to pay anything. You just have to do the settings, and everything is very easy. And as soon as you do that, it's going to be in iTunes podcast directory. When it goes into the iTunes podcast directory, from there you can download it for free in any podcast app. You can listen to it online for free. So there's nothing that you need to do to invest in that. And also, as I said, there are a lot of free applications that you can use to listen to a podcast. We're going to talk about recording a podcast as soon as we're going to get to that slide. But the price of entry in creating your podcast is free. You don't have to invest any money into that. Just maybe to invest your time if you want to do that. Okay. Talking about the types of podcasts, because you're thinking about, okay, but what makes a podcast? Well, there are several kinds of podcasts. First of all is the interview. You have the same host, for example, me, I'm taking interviews as a host with different people. I can talk to the president of FIJET, I can talk to maybe somebody that is working in the hospitality business. The second kind is a debate, and you can have the debate on news or on different other topics. And for the debate kind, you have two different hosts, two or maybe three, that debate the subjects of the week, for example, and record a podcast about that, and they can do it every week or every day if you want, every month. It's up to you how regular that can be, The debate can be on news or it can be on different topics. For example, I have a podcast that actually does both of them. Mycon is a podcast about technology and productivity. It's in Romanian, but if you learn Romanian, you can listen to that as well. But there are several podcasts that I listen to that are in English, the English language. And you can listen to that as well. So what we do is I have a co-host, and we every week we try to find the most interesting stories about Apple, Google, Facebook, and other companies like that. Discuss about what's new in technology, big companies or small companies, like electric vehicles, like Tesla and other companies like that. And we also have topics about productivity, how to be more productive in your work, how to set up your computer, your desk, how to work with applications like Mail or Outlook and so on, And the third kind of podcast is the story or true crime podcasts. You have on one narrator. The narrator is actually not talking about news, not debating, not interviewing anyone, but reading a story. And the story podcast focuses on following. For each episode follows a story, and is like I'm not sure if you remember, if you have ever listened to that. It's something like they used to have in the old times, like theater on radio, You have like multiple people, doing like a play, but on radio it was audio. Well, Now you do have that in podcasts with one narrator or with multiple actors that can do the same thing. So these are the types of podcasts. Of course, there are a few more, but it's not about the way you put this kind of podcast into different categories. You can mix and match. You can have like half of the podcast can be like a story and the other half can be an interview, let's say with the author of that story, so you can mix and match them. It's up to you. There's no written rule to have that in a certain way, so that's one thing you have to do. I guess your one of the questions is how do you choose your topic, for a podcast? Because a topic can help you advance that podcast and make it more interesting for the listeners. Of course, this can be your favorite subject. Let's say you're a journalist or students that are studying about the travel industry and the hospitality industry. You can have a podcast about that, have a podcast about Morocco, promote your country, so that's one thing you can do. I was listening to you earlier and you had like a lot of great ideas about how to promote your country. Do that in a podcast, record podcasts in French or English or in both, and promote your country. Try to project those ideas and create something about a subject that matters to you. Your favorite subject may be about the phone in your pocket, about a certain computer. Your favorite subject may be something about traveling, and you can talk about what you do when you go to, let's say, Morocco, what to take in your bags. How do you find the SIM cards? How do you, or other countries, when you go to France, what do you visit, and talk about that, talk about your experience. Think about a subject that can hold for at least 10 or more episodes. Why is that important? Because you don't want to do one episode and then that's your podcast, that's it, You want to do it regularly. So if you want to do it regularly, think about subject that can be covered in at least 10 or more episodes. I've done so far, let me see, about 600 episodes of podcasts. So yes, and my newest show, Mike On, is at episode 82. If I remember correctly, yes, 82 was published this morning. So think about subject that can be covered in 10 or more episodes. And if you do that, you're going to have enough material to go a long way, I'm sure that you are all, just like a little expert in your field. You know about your passions. You know about the subjects that make your life. You can talk about the news. If you don't have any subject that you're an expert in, you can talk about the news. Let's say you just cover news about traveling or news about Morocco and so on. Or about your country as well. And also, you have to think about a way to promote your company or field of activity. Because if you promote your company, let's say you work for a company, you can have a podcast. Let's say that company is doing social media stuff, like creating content for social media. Even if it's a small company, you can do that and in the same time promote your activity. Teach others how to do that and promote your activity, promote yourself and your company. Let's say you have a company you're an architect. I see we have architects in here, You can have a podcast about architecture and talk about different topics like that. Well, architects around the world will listen to your podcast because they want to hear about your opinions. They want to hear about a different point of view. So that's one way to promote your company or field. These subjects can change over time. So it's not like when you start the podcast and it's only about, let's say, cars, because you like cars. That doesn't mean that you cannot talk about technology. It can be related to cars or not. That doesn't mean that you cannot talk about the fuel prices, going up, or the new electric cars and so on, So it doesn't mean that you cannot talk about what you do when you're in a car. Listen to a podcast maybe, or something like that, So it's up to you how you you know, embrace that topic and talk about that. Okay, let's talk about money. I think everybody loves money, right? Let's talk about the money that you have to invest. I have a question for you. Who knows what is the best camera that you have? Is the phone in your pocket. That's right. The phone in your pocket is the best camera. Why is that the best? Because you always have that with you, you know? So you just take it out of the pocket, take a picture, and that's it. You don't have to carry a big camera, like an expensive one. Well, of course, some phones are expensive, but the phone is the best camera that you have. What do you think is the best microphone that you have? Still the phone, exactly. Do you have to invest any money into that? No. And let me tell you that you can actually use the phone in your pocket to create and start your own podcast. Yes, please.
I work in radio, and yeah, I'm pretty agree with you, but maybe that could be a not so far investment to put a little bonnet as you are in your microphone, on the microphone of your phone, because the sound would be better with the wind and everything, and it would be better for better quality, because I think we say that sound is the most important thing in the podcast, and if the sound is not quality enough, the podcast would be inaudible.
Absolutely. So you have to have good sound, good quality audio. But when you want to start something, when you want to start small, you know, you don't have to invest too much money. The phone in your pocket can be your best friend. If it's good for video, and the audio that comes with that video is good for a podcast. It's good enough to start, you know. If you want to grow that, then you would have to invest. So that's one good way to start. But you can buy a microphone like the Rode Podcaster mic, and I can give you all the details after that, you know, where to find them. So a microphone like that would be like, I believe it's around 50 euros, something like that. So that's a very good microphone. Yes, please.
Also microphones that just like connect to the phone by Bluetooth.
Mm-hmm.
So you just have the phone and microphone. I have one that just those are like we call this like bocha, like the small one.
Like a lavalier, yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about like 20 to 40 euros, and
Mm-hmm.
we have to try like the quality of that. And surprisingly, it is sometimes much better than those big ones.
Absolutely.
It just absorbs all the stuff you don't want to hear when you are trying
Mm-hmm.
to get something.
So the first idea is to start with your phone, but you have to, if you want to invest a little bit in the quality of your audio, then you can buy a microphone. Small microphone, like she said, is about 20 euros. Good quality microphone, like the Rode Podcaster mic, pod mic is about 50 to 70 euros. If you want to buy like a good vocal mic, the Heil PR40, it's a very good quality microphone. Heil PR40 and the Shure microphones were the microphones that, I don't know, like singers like Michael Jackson used to record their songs, you know. So those are good vocal mics. But you don't have to invest in that, you know. You don't have to spend like $400 or euros into a microphone. You can start small with your phone, or with a microphone that's like 20 or 50 or 70 euros if you want to do that. Now, how do you record? Of course, every phone has like a recorder or a voice recorder app. You can use that. But there are apps like Anchor, and I can give you the link to that. Anchor is it's an application, looks like this actually, that you can actually use to record audio on your phone. And in the same time, you can use that to edit the audio right on your phone, your tablet, on your computer, or right in the browser. So you don't need any extra application just for that. And guess what? The price of Anchor is free, so you don't have to pay any money for that. And also, the next level would be to buy something like the Rodecaster Pro, which is this one right here. Which is a mixer that costs about 400 euros, and that can be like a radio station with everything that you need for a radio station, including the pads in here, the color pads, that are used to have like jingles and small bits of sound and so on, you know. So if you want to have like a true radio studio, you can use something like this, which would be like 400 euros. But in the same time, remember that you can start with your phone, edit the audio on your computer or on the phone for free. You can actually do that. So this is about the money that you have to invest, you know. What happens after that? Because let's say you recorded your first podcast, but how do you publish that? How do you take it to the world? Well, you have to think about hosting your podcast. The first option that comes to mind is still Anchor. Anchor is a free platform. You can actually, Anchor belongs to Spotify. I think everyone heard of Spotify. You're using Spotify, right? Okay. So Anchor is a free platform that you can use to publish your podcast for free. You don't have to pay anything. If you want to, and you have all the basics. When you publish an episode to Anchor, it's just like you publish, let's say, an article or a blog post using WordPress. Have you heard of WordPress? Are you using WordPress? Okay. So it's very easy to use. You just add the details, the audio file, put all the show notes, and press publish. In a few minutes, you're just gonna be there online. You can listen to that in the browser, and you have included with that a page for your podcast. Let's say a podcast like mine, MyCon. I have anchor.com, anchor.fm, I believe, or .com. /mycon. You can use that as your website. You don't have to pay for that .com domain if you don't want. Well, there are more expensive alternatives. You have Libsyn, Blueberry, Zencaster, and others, you know, that can help you record and publish your podcast. But Anchor is free. I've been using that for the past 2.5 years, and it's been great. No issues whatsoever. The only limitation, if I may say, about Anchor is the amount of text that you can put in the show notes. So, for example, if your podcast has like a lot of links and information, you know, the text that shows up on the page, well, you have limitations for that. So, if you don't want to do that, you know, if you don't want to pay for hosting, you can actually do that for free. Start small, you know, but you have to grow everything, you know. So let's talk about branding. Let's talk about how you promote your podcasts. First of all, what I would recommend is to find a good name for your show, your podcast, you know. It can be like one word or 2 or 3 words. Don't make it any longer than that, you know. Don't have like, you know, it can be like, for example, MyCon is just one word. It's 2 words actually stuck together, you know, MyCon. And I managed to find that on .ro in our country, you know, the extension for that. See if you can find something that is original. It's about you, you know. It can even be something like traveling with Alara, you know, or architecture with Alara, you know. You can just use your name as, you know, part of the podcast title, you know. You can do that. Try to have good episode names, you know, descriptive episode names, you know. For example, if you're going to go there and have an episode about the architecture in Morocco, try to put that in the title, you know. Don't say about, let's see what I've done in the month of July, you know. Don't do that. Just talk about, put it in the title. Why? Because it's a good SEO tactic. You know, you can actually find it easier after that online. You can find easier episodes about architecture in Morocco or traveling to other countries or whatever your podcast is about. Every podcast has the option to add show notes and links. This is very good, and you want to use that because all the show notes are actually going to be indexed by Google, and people can find your stuff online much easier. It's nice to have a .com domain, you know, if you can buy your own .com domain. It can be something like, I don't know, architecturewithalara.com or something like that. I know it's a long name, but no, you can find a shorter name to use that, you know, or traveling with Hiba. .com or something like that, you can use that. Or you can have like hibapodcast.com, I'm pretty sure that nobody had thought of that, and you can actually find it to buy that domain, Social media is free. You don't have to pay anything. Well, of course, you can pay to promote it even further if you want to, but you don't have to do that, So you can actually use social media to promote your stuff. It's free to use. You can put clips about your podcast on Instagram or on Facebook or on TikTok. Now TikTok is rising, so you can use that to promote your podcasts. So the basics are you just need one microphone, the Anchor app, if you want to record it on your phone, or you can use the Rodecaster Pro as a built-in podcast machine for your studio setup. And using a microphone like the pod mic, you don't actually need a studio. You can just record that in a quiet part of your house, in your bedroom. You don't have to do it like that. During the pandemic, I switched from working in an office to working from home, and I recorded all of my podcasts from home. And guess what? The quality of the audio is great. You can actually use that, and it's not only usable, but because home is more quiet than like an office building, you can actually use that. Okay. Next thing is, how do you get more listeners? Because how do you get listeners in the first place? Listeners in the first place you get by showing and promoting your podcast to your friends and family. Hey, listen to this. Here is what I have to say about this topic, give the link of your podcast to your colleagues at school or at work, and make sure that they know and promote that even further, You can ask them, hey, post that on your Facebook page, post that in your Instagram. Help me grow this podcast because I know you like it and I know other people will like it, Use Facebook groups. I use a lot of Facebook groups, and I know that the Facebook groups are more engaged. If you have a podcast about traveling, you can actually post the links from each episode in a group on Facebook about traveling. If you have a podcast about architecture, post that in those groups. I know you are part of Facebook groups. I know whoever has Facebook is in a group somehow, Group that is more about a certain topic, or the group in your city maybe, and you can talk about your podcast in that group as well. But what would be the next step? Well, the next step is to promote it on TikTok, Instagram. Can you promote it on YouTube? Well, if it's an audio podcast, you cannot promote an audio podcast on YouTube. But one thing you can do is to have short clips, like Facebook Shorts or Reels on Facebook or Stories. And you can have short audio clips about a certain topic, like 30 seconds or 1 minute. Put that with a nice graphic and put it on Stories or Reels or TikTok, because that's going to increase your engagement. Have the link there, and everybody will want to come and listen to the whole podcast. The podcast episode can be anywhere from like 15, 20 minutes to 2 hours, But if you have like a short clip on your social media, like 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute, then you can actually use that as a way to get more people to listen to your podcast. Can you make money from the podcast? Of course you can. And there are several ways to make money from that. So we're talking about monetization. Well, Anchor, the platform I was telling you about, which is free, offers that option for English or French and other international well-spoken languages. You can actually have Anchor ads in your podcasts. Add it automatically, and they will give you money. If you have more listeners, they will give you money just because they insert those ads automatically. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to look for sponsors or anything like that. So you can do that for free. But one other way to make money from your podcast would be to promote your services and products. Let's say, let's go back to that example. Let's say you have a company that is dealing with social media. You try to find clients to work on a Facebook page for a company, let's say. You have a podcast about that, you know. You promote your work, and you can promote your own products and services. So when people listen to those ads, they have, in a way, they are convinced by you. Ads in podcasts work like this. You can have an ad read, what is called an ad read, or you can have like a short recording, just like you hear on radio. But for an ad read, the best thing to do is to read it in your voice. An ad read in a podcast is usually not only 15 or 20 seconds. It can be as long as 2 minutes, you know. If you have a podcast about architecture, you can promote some other architecture company, you know, a designer, interior designer that wants to promote his services, you know. You can have like design your yard or the pool area, you know. So you can do that. If you have a podcast about traveling, you can promote services. Like there are a lot of companies that sell you travel insurance, and you can have that, you know. Just ask them for a small fee, maybe like 50 euros. What can you do with 50 euros per episode? Well, you can buy a new microphone to have better quality audio. You can buy a mixer, you know, in like a month or two with the money you get. You can buy that. You can buy maybe a better phone to have, you know, a better computer and so on, you know. So just a small fee like that will take you a lot, you know, will take you further. Is there a secret to podcasting? Well, not necessarily a secret, but the best way to have a podcast that gets more listeners every day is to be consistent. For example, my podcast, Mike On, we make sure that we publish that every Thursday at noon. Every Thursday at noon is going to be published. We're not going to publish it on Wednesday. We're not going to skip a week. We just publish it every day and in the same day of the week and the same hour, because people know that they're going to get a new episode at a certain time. You know the story about Pavlov's dog, you know? He was, you know, turning the light on. The dog knew that he's going to be fed, you know? Well, your listeners are not, they're going to be fed new information, new interesting topics about what they want to listen for, you know? So the best way to have more listeners or to get more listeners is to be consistent. Promote the fact that you're going to have a podcast published every week. You can do it every day if you have the time. You know, it can be shorter, like 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. It can be every day if you have the time for that. Otherwise, just do it like once a week. Another secret would be to have good audio. Good audio is very important. Are you going to listen to something that has like scratches and noises from the wind and so on? No, you're not going to listen to that. You want to have good audio. Do you want to listen to something that is like radio quality? Of course you want to do that. But if the quality is good, the quality of the information is good, well, you're going to bear the fact that you know the quality of the audio is not that good, you know, because you want to listen to the guy or the girl, you know, talking about their favorite subject, you know. Just your friends are going to want to listen to you. Your other companies will want to listen to you about your strategies and the things that you do. And the last thing, and the most important thing, is to have fun, you know. Do this as your favorite hobby, start it as a hobby, and just go from there. It doesn't have to be something like, you know, you can say jokes in your podcast, you know. If you're talking about travel, say a funny story about what you did in Morocco, you know. What, you know, how the food was too spicy for you, or how the tour guide showed you something that, you know, it was something funny or something like that, you know. So try to have fun. Try not to have it like to be too serious, you know, you know, your listener will want to hear short and funny stories about your favorite subject. So do that as well. The most important thing is to be consistent. Treat this as a hobby and go from there. You're going to see that you're going to have a lot of fun. I did that for, I think it's over 600 episodes so far. So I think I know that you're going to have fun. Okay, these are my contacts. I'm going to give you the presentation on the group. But until then, if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to listen to any question. Yes, please.
Can you give some things
Okay.
And if you just done 1%, I think it's better to have some music or some noises. For example, if you do a reporting and some ambiances sound.
Mhm.
And I think yeah, at the when you do your song or your podcast at the montage, you have a real lot of freedom to make creative things, and that's I think for me it's my favorite part of making more podcasts, and that's the part you make all the magic of your podcast.
Absolutely. The best thing about the podcast is the fact that there is no certain recipe. You don't have to follow a recipe. If you want to add more music or more sounds, feel free to do that, you know. If you want to have just talking, do that, you know. You have the liberty to do whatever you want with your podcast, you know. It is your creation, so just, you know, as your favorite subject, because you are like a small expert in that subject, you can do whatever you want with it. So that's a very good observation. Actually, you can do that. Yes, please.
And some podcasts are so they're so long, like 2 hours and a half, and you cannot watch it completely. Like it's so just talking and it's so boring. Like what can they do? Like interests me, interests other people. Like can you like include some games? Like in TV shows, they include game, the yes or no game, like the roulette game. Like,
Mhm.
can we include that in the podcast?
Of course, you can do that if you want, but I've done episodes that were 2.5 hours long. I've done that. And I know that people will not listen to that in one take. They will listen to those episodes in 2 or 3 takes. They will start it maybe in the morning when they're brushing their teeth, you know, on the way to work or to school, in the car or in the bus or in the subway, and you can listen to the end of that in the evening when you're coming back home, you know. So don't think about something that can be listened in one take. Your podcast can span over 2 hours, 2.5 hours, maybe even more. Of course, to be like 1 hour, maybe 1 hour and a half is perfect, you know. But if it's longer, don't stress about that, you know. The fact that your podcast is longer, it means it has more interesting subjects, and people want to listen to your podcast just because they are interested in those subjects. One way to work with that is to have podcast chapters. In Anchor and other applications like that, you have the option to write the chapter name. So let's say we're talking about cars. You know, the first chapter of the episode is going to be about the new Tesla. Then the second chapter would be about the new Toyota, you know. If they want to skip over a chapter about Toyota, they can do that. They can skip it, you know. So if you add chapter points, they're going to be able to skip that and just move to the next subject that they want to listen to. I have a lot of podcasts that are about home automation, you know, integration with Apple Home applications and Google Home and Alexa and so on, you know. And I want to know about the subjects that can integrate with Apple Home because I use an iPhone. I don't want to know about Alexa. So I just skip the parts with Alexa and the podcast just goes on, you know. So you don't have to listen to the whole podcast, you just listen to the parts that you are interested in. Any other questions? Yes, please.
Technically speaking, if I already have a WordPress site and I do my recording, how does it go to my WordPress site?
Okay, that's a very good question. There is a very, very simple way to integrate that because each podcast, after you are publishing that, has like an embed link, just like a YouTube video. So you just grab the code from there. It's very easy. You can find it on Anchor's website. Just grab the code, put it in the WordPress blog, just copy and paste that, and it's going to be there like a player with a play button and so on. You know? So all you have to do is just grab it from there, put it in your website, and it's going to be there. Not only that, but you can give it to other companies. Let's say I created podcasts about, I don't know, like Vodafone in Romania had their foundation about some social causes, you know. I invited one of the people there for an episode, and they asked me to put it on their blog. So I just gave them the code, and my podcast was on their blog just because of that. Just copy and paste that link, and they can distribute it on their blog. So it's very easy to do that. Okay. Thank you so much for being part of this presentation. If you have any questions, if you have any further questions, I'm more than happy to answer them privately if you don't want to speak in public. And I hope you will start your own podcast and have fun with that. Thank you.